All right, we're going to pick up with the second part of the lecture for Renaissance and Reformation. Um, Last time we ended up talking about some of the changes in art, and I mentioned a handful of artists at the bottom, primarily the Ninja Turtles, and then the architecture of Bronte. So I just want to look at some of these real quickly. Starting with Donatello. You know, Donato de Niccolo de Veda Barda, yeah, Donatello. Um, Florence birth, Florence death. He's a sculptor, primarily. Some of his works. This is called the Feast of Herod. If you're a churchgoer, you probably know the story about John the Baptist having his head cut off by King Herod at the request of his stepdaughter. Well, this is a depiction of that scene, the presentation of the head. You can see down here the person kneeling, that's supposed to be John the Baptist. Um, this is a statue of St. Mark. Uh, this is entitled Judith and Holofernes. Holofernes, pronunciation, I apologize, but says in the book of this is the description. In the book of Judith, Holofernes was the invading general of the powerful Nebuchadnezzar, who had given him the task to destroy the nations of the West, who wouldn't regard him as the only holy. When Holofernes was about to take over the biblical city of Bethula, it was saved by the beautiful Hebrew widow named Judith, who seduced him and then beheaded him when he was drunk. Probably not a Sunday school story that most of you have heard. This is another one of his pieces. This is, excuse me there. This is a statue of young David. Also, the biblical David. David, the more famous statue of David is coming, but this was one by Donatello. Then we have Da Vinci. Now, right over here, for those of you that are watching at home, there's a link to a 10-minute video or so of the life of Leonardo da Vinci. Please click on that. As far as works of his, this is Vitruvian Man. And Leonardo did quite a bit of work dealing with anatomy, physiology. I mean, besides just being a painter, he was a writer, he was an inventor, he was an architect, an engineer, mathematician, musician, philosopher, and a scientist. And as the video talks about, his scientific friends was like, why are you wasting all your time doing this artsy stuff when you could be doing science? Then I'm sure that his art friends were saying, why are you wasting all your time doing all this sciencey stuff? You could be doing art. This thing, Leonardo da Vinci was, and he is the Renaissance man. He had an enormous skill set. This, of course, is the Last Supper. Again, the biblical, depiction of the scene of the Last Supper of Christ before he was betrayed and then eventually crucified. And then maybe the most famous of his works is the Mona Lisa and the whole thing. Is she smiling? Is she not smiling? Was it a self-portrait? Wasn't it a self-portrait? Who knows? It's one of those works that have been just debated, discussed, studied for centuries. But Da Vinci, again, he left so much is unknown. He left like 20,000 pages of notes that have been, that people are still poring over, trying to learn things about him. So, but there's Da Vinci. Then we have Michelangelo. Um, the first, well, let's just go backwards here. Over here, this is the Pieta. This is the sculpture of the Mother Mary holding the body of Jesus. The themes of grief and love and uh, acceptance, immortality. But this is supposed to be after the crucifixion. Excuse me for the yawn. Apologize. Over here on this side, this is his statue of David. It's some 13 feet tall. It's a massive, um, massive statue, massive carving, sculpture. And then here in the middle, it's the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. Now, there were a lot of people that were critical of his work on the Sistine Chapel. Um, Primarily, there's too many nude bodies for it being a church. But again, it's still considered to be a masterpiece, his masterpiece. For Raphael, the big one is the School of Athens. It is a fresco, which means it's painted directly onto wet plaster or damp plaster. Um, Actually, my notes here say fresh, moist plaster. Hopefully, that's not a word that offends you. But anyway, it's supposed to show all the great thinkers from going back to Aristotle, Plato, Socrates, but then also throughout the ages, all together at once. So, School of Athens. And then we have Bronte, who is the Italian architect. This is St. Peter's Basilica, and you can see the dome work here. Just phenomenal. Okay, but it is earlier. The High Renaissance style of to Rome. You can read the slide. Again, just breathtaking. That rotunda piece is just amazing as far as I am concerned. All right. Just quickly gonna kind of introduce the Renaissance and the move to the north. But again, trade is going to be a major factor in a lot of this stuff. And what we see happening in the north, going to see more to do with the printing press. Um, you know what? Let's just stop right there. I don't want to get too far into this because I want you to have a chance to look at kind of preview a little bit of this section before we get into the notes on it. So before we get into Erasmus and Thomas More and Rabelais and Shakespeare and Poussin, I want you to have a chance to look at some things. So make sure you watch the little video on Da Vinci. This is a very short piece of lecture. You had a project that was due yesterday. I got another little art piece, like 5 or 6 matching I'm going to put up there today, as well as an assignment that deals with the Renaissance moving to Northern Europe. All right. So take care of that stuff. We got a map quiz on Friday. So make sure, and a CNN quiz on Friday. So make sure you get that stuff taken care of.